Hi, I'm Tim Johnson, Senior Pastor of Orlando World Outreach Center, and I want to speak to you today about weakness made strong. Hebrews 11 is often called God's Hall of Faith, and this is the chapter where we find a character by the name of Gideon. We may be able to identify with Gideon because in verse 32 and 34, it describes his life as weakness made strong. His actual story is in Judges chapter 6. When we think about strength, we naturally think about things that we're good at or have the advantage in, like having a great intellect or personal charisma or having airbrushed looks, having wealth, determination, courage, or strong leadership qualities. Gideon was someone who would have never been accused of having any of these qualities because he didn't come from a prestigious family. He was just an ordinary farmer from the weakest family within the tribe of Manasseh, and he was the least within that family. He lived during a time when their enemies, the Midianites, would swarm in to steal their grain, so Gideon would regularly harvest the grain hiding in a wine press. The Midianites were basically school bullies that you were afraid of would take your lunch. And so hiding in the wine press would be like eating that lunch in a bathroom stall because you're afraid the bullies are going to beat you up. And while you're hiding with your heart beating fast and palms sweating and ears attuned to the least sound, someone looks over the top of the stall and calls you a mighty warrior, which is what happened when God saw Gideon in the wine press, faithless and fearful, and called him a mighty warrior. Can you imagine Gideon's response? He was like, yeah, right. And when he went on a rant about all the things that hadn't happened to him and his family and the people that looked like God was absent. But everything changed when the Lord said these words in Judges 6:16, I will be with you. The reason this was the beginning of Gideon's transformation is because whenever we start to believe the Lord is with us, it means where he wants to take us, we can't get to without him. Sometimes that's a little bit hard to believe because we've tried so many times to overcome our weaknesses on our own and failed that we actually start to accommodate them in our lives. Well, there's good news. When God calls you, he doesn't look at your degree or pedigree. We may look at our weaknesses and failures as an excuse not to fulfill God's purpose in our lives, but he will use them as a reason to fulfill his purpose in our lives because his strength is greater than our weaknesses. I want to encourage you today to be like Gideon. Answer the call to spiritually be who you've never been and do what you've never done by allowing God to take you